Hey folks, this is Kalani. We have new tier sets to look at. The Mage Tower from Legion might just be returning. There will be a bunch of new catch-up mechanics in the new patch. Legendary crafting will have all of its time gates removed, and there are some quality of life changes tacked on top. Let's jump right in. First up this week, we have some new tier sets to look at, or at least some new recolors of an older tier set. These sets originally came from the Tomb of Sargeras raid, so that was tier 20 I believe. They were kind of upgraded versions of the tier 6 gear from the Black Temple way back in the day, so if they look familiar, that's probably why. By the way, is there a reason why Warlocks always seem to get some of the best looking sets with colors that really set everything off? This red recolor of tier 20 looks amazing, and the wings will match it too. I might just have to dust off my Warlock going into the next patch, who knows? The Warrior recolor looks fantastic too. I think the color combinations really help to highlight the extra details here. Some warriors have noted that this color does look very similar to the Elite PvP color from back in the day, which might annoy the players who thought that Elite set was going to remain more unique. As we move through the different classes, I think it's interesting to see how many different recolors work with the same set. I think some definitely have turned out better than others in these sets, but they're also going to be included alongside all of the other colors that you can still get from the Tomb of Sargeras raid. It makes me wish there was an option for dyeing your gear in-game so we could achieve a wider variety of interesting combinations and actually have some control over how that gear looks color-wise. But I guess then we wouldn't see sets return like this sometime in the future with a different recolor. They would also then need to figure out how to reward players for 4 different raid difficulties without relying entirely on recolors of the same gear, but that's a problem for another time, I guess. Pretty much all of these sets look fantastic with the new recolors in my opinion, and it makes me wish the dev team hadn't decided to move away from class-based tier sets for the last couple of expansions. Can you imagine how good the BFA or Shadowlands tier sets could look like? I mean, I guess we'll see what magic the art team can weave together for the next raid in Shadowlands, because unless the plans have changed drastically, we should be getting tier sets in patch 9.2, so I'm definitely looking to see how they're going to turn out. But seeing some of these sets with a simple recolor definitely makes me want more tier sets in the game. There is one problem with these tier sets right now though. We're not too sure where they're going to come from. We know that patch 9.2 should introduce a new raid and some new tier sets for the first time in a very long time, but this is not patch 9.2, it's patch 9.15. I doubt these sets will just be set to the side until the new raid pops up, and I seriously doubt the dev team would be reusing sets and models like this for the brand new raid. That leaves the most likely source of these new sets being something in patch 9.1.5, and there's nothing else that fits quite as well as the new Legion Time Walking event. There's going to be a lot going on in this event. We'll get to go through all the dungeons as with every other Time Walking event, but we'll also be able to do those old Legion dungeons in a special Time Walking Mythic Plus style, which will reward the same item level as Shadowlands Mythic Plus dungeons. So that's kind of crazy. Legion gear is going to be relevant again. These new tier sets could be a reward from the Mythic Plus section of the Time Walking event, maybe for completing all of the dungeons at a certain key level, just like the Keystone Master achievements in Shadowlands. Or we could actually see the addition of a Time Walking raid with the Legion event. Quite a few Time Walking events have a raid attached to them now, so a Time Walking raid wouldn't be anything new. If the dev team brought back the Tomb of Sargeras raid, for example, and added the Time Walking scaling in, that could be a lot of fun. That raid was quite special in a variety of ways with some interesting bosses, and it would be an appropriate place to reward these new tier set recolors, because that's originally where they came from. They came from the Tomb of Sargeras. So these new tier sets could come from the new Legion Time Walking event, or there could be another source. The latest PTR build included some very interesting new spells. Through the magic of Wowhead data mining, we can see that several new teleport spells were added into the game, which seem to refer to the old scenarios used in the Mage Tower back in Legion. If you're not too sure what this is, the Mage Tower was a very challenging solo scenario that rewarded unique cosmetics for the Legion artifact weapons. Some of the coolest ones rewards too. The Mage Tower was closed when the Legion expansion ended, so those rewards have been unobtainable since that time. Because the rewards were prestigious and the Mage Tower itself was quite difficult to overcome, it was widely regarded as one of the major highlights of the Legion expansion, and players would gather around the Mage Tower entrance to offer up buffs, advice, items, and generally just encourage their fellow players. It was really cool, and there have been a lot of requests for the dev team to make something similar, though nothing has really come close so far. So if the dev team does decide to bring back the Mage Tower and they want to keep those previous rewards in their unobtainable state, these new tier set looks could be the perfect reward to put in their place. But I hear you. Alright Kalani, some random teleport spells, is that all we've got to go on? Not quite. There have also been some tuning changes to various spells and abilities used in those Mage Tower fights. Wowhead has a full list of the changes, but all in all it looks like 7 of the Mage Tower encounters have seen small balance tuning changes. It's nothing major, just tweaking the damage numbers for the most part, but why would these abilities need changing at all unless the dev team planned on using them again? The new Legion time walking could expand the entire system and scope of time walking as we know it. Instead of just going back into dungeons or back into one of the most prominent raids with that expansion, what if they started time walking the expansion as a whole, temporarily bringing back popular systems and features that were the high notes of an expansion, exactly like the Mage Tower? Another great example of something they could bring back in a similar fashion would be the challenge mode dungeons from Mists of Pandaria and Warlords of Draenor. They don't quite work in the same way as Mythic Plus does, so it'd be interesting to see those challenge modes once again. So maybe the Mage Tower will only become available again during Legion time walking, where you can try your hand at getting these shiny tier set recolors. They could expand upon that idea to revitalize many of the different systems of past expansions and offer up some shiny goodies to boot. Now pretty much all of this is speculation at this point. We don't know where these tier sets are going to come from. We don't even know if we'll be able to get them at all. We're not sure if the Mage Tower is returning, but there are definitely hints that the dev team wants to use it again. So we'll have to wait and see how this all pans out when the Legion time walking event becomes testable on the PTR. You can be sure we'll have a video explaining how it all works when we have more details, so stay tuned. Moving on, this PTR build also introduced a new catch-up mechanic for Renown. A new item called the Broker Mark of Distinction can be purchased after one of your characters reaches the max Renown level of 80, and using the item will instantly level up your Renown to level 40. So this is going to be great for alts and helping them skip over the first 40 levels of the Renown grind, but you can also be used for leveling up your other covenants on the same character. If you haven't swapped covenants at all, and you only have one covenant leveled up, if you decide to swap on over to any of the other covenants, they will all start at Renown level 1. This mark can then be used to instantly get halfway to 80, which will significantly reduce the time it takes to level up any left behind covenants. Remember that patch 915 also introduces the ability to swap covenants with 0 restrictions, so even if you've never wanted to play a different covenant right now, you might feel differently when this patch rolls around. This PTR build also introduced the ability to trade anima to any of your other characters. On the upper level of Oribos, right next to the Flight Master, you can find a new vendor who is almost certainly a placeholder. So when this patch hits live servers, you'll most likely get this item from somewhere else, probably in your actual Covenant Sanctum, but we can still see how the item works. The Traveler's Anima Cache will cost you 250 anima. You can trade it to any of your other characters and it will give you 250 anima when deposited into your Sanctum. So it's a 1-for-1 trade right now, which is nice to see. Every other trade that's been implemented in Shadowlands for similar currencies has not been 1-to-1, and you actually lost a good chunk of your currency when transferring them over, the most important one being the Soul Ash transfer. We'll have to wait and see whether or not the anima transfer stays at a 1-to-1 rate, but you will be able to transfer anima between characters in patch 915. It's also important to note that this item could be very useful even if you don't have any alts. The way things stand right now, your anima pools are actually completely separated for each covenant. So if you've been hanging out with the Night Fae this entire time and you have 50k anima stored up with them, and then you decide to change to Kyrian, you actually start with 0 anima. The Night Fae anima stays with the Night Fae covenant and will be waiting for you if you decide to return to the Night Fae. With patch 915 introducing the ability to freely swap between covenants with no restrictions, this anima transfer could be very useful in transferring your anima between different covenants on the same character to make sure you have as much anima as you need and where you need it. There are some interesting problems that have been found with this item so far. Most notably, you can actually complete your weekly anima quest instantly with this item simply by buying 4 of them, because they count as an anima token and they grant you 250 anima each when used. Buying 4 of them counts as looting or earning 1k anima, which will complete your weekly quest. In addition to that, you can actually send the same 4 tokens across all of your alts, and because when they loot them from the mailbox it counts as looting anima, you can actually use 4 tokens to complete as many weekly quests as you can be bothered to do, which is kinda silly. That probably won't make it to the live game, but it is a funny interaction. The same vendor has another interesting new addition in this PTR build, Corthian Armament gear tokens that will give you a piece of gear for a very specific gear slot. So if you've been struggling to get a weapon or a belt or a helm or whatever it might be, now you'll be able to purchase those gear tokens and cut out a level of RNG. Personally, I would like to see gear tokens be specific like this in the future. I really don't think there's any good reason to have a gear token that both rewards a random piece of gear and for a random gear slot. Double dipping on RNG acts like a massive time gate with this kind of system, and it adds a lot of frustration that just doesn't need to be there, especially when you introduce this gear token as a long-term alternative to gearing up methods. Corthia gear was supposed to be able to rival early raid gear, providing you completed the rep grinds and could get enough of the research currency, but actually getting the right items proved to be one of the more annoying parts of the system, so I'm glad that's finally being changed. These gear tokens will still cost you Stygia, and quite a bit of Stygia if these values don't change, so hopefully you'll have enough Stygia left over to buy what you need in patch 9.15. It's just a shame that most of the players who actually needed this change probably don't need it anymore, but it will be nice for anyone coming back to the game for patch 9.15. Moving on, if you remember back to some of the first info we learned about patch 9.15, you might recall that we're supposed to get some new travel options to help zip around the moor a bit better. Well, a few of those were introduced in this latest PTR build. The Anima Flow Stabilizer upgrade item that you can purchase from Venari has been upgraded to include 2 new locations, Desmataran and Perdition Hold. Desmataran is the one most players will be interested in, I suppose, and I can answer your pressing question right away. Yes, this does more or less take you straight to the raid, so you don't have to run through that entire section of the moor every time you want to get into the Sanctum of Domination raid. Now you can take a portal to skip 95% of the run, and you just have the last few feet to the Summoning Stone. Very useful for those brave few out there who get to the Summoning Stone first to help summon everyone else in your raid. You all know who you are. Kudos to you. The portal over to Perdition Hold drops you right where you would expect, smack bang on the front door. So if you still do your daily quests over there, or just want to hang around in Perdition Hold for whatever reason, this portal can get you over there toot sweet. As an added bonus, there's also a new Rift Stone that connects the Perdition Hold new portal location and the Desmataran portal location, so if you happen to click on the wrong one by accident, this Rift Stone can quickly get you to where you actually want to be, which is a nice little safety net. We also have some huge changes coming to Torghast, and I bet none of you saw this one coming. In patch 9.15 you'll be able to run Torghast as many times as you want, and it will always give you full rewards for Soul Ash and Soul Cinders. They're totally removing the weekly loot limit for those currencies, so you can pop into Torghast, clear layer 12, walk away with a bunch of Soul Cinders and Soul Ash, and go do it again, and again, and again. If you have enough time, you could craft and upgrade every single legendary available to your class in the same week, or farm up as much Soul Ash as you want to center any number of ults you might have, or, well, you get the idea. No more limits on how much Soul Ash or Soul Cinders you can gather in a week. I really wonder what kind of reception this version of Torghast would have had at the start of the expansion. Think about it, being able to run as many times as you want and actually get rewards, having a talent tree to progress through to help you get further and further, and give you another reason to actually want to go back into the tower, and the current implementation of how Torghast actually works is much better than what we had before. It's just a shame it took the system this long to get into a decent place, but it doesn't stop there for the Torghast changes. In addition to being able to run Torghast as often as you want, the dev team will also be increasing the Soul Cinder rewards by quite a lot. Right now, when you complete a Layer 8 run, you'll get 50 Soul Cinders at the end. In patch 9.15, you'll get 170 Soul Cinders, so over triple the amount. The rewards for even higher layers have been increased as well. I'll pop a little chart up on screen for you, and it will cap out at 350 Soul Cinders for completing a Layer 12 run. So not only will you be able to get as many Cinders as you want by running Torghast over and over again, but getting those Cinders is going to be much faster thanks to the increase in the rewards. An interesting effect that these two changes have is that you don't actually have to push yourself to clear the highest layer anymore. Previously, you really wanted to get up to that highest layer because that was the max soul ash or soul cinders you could get per week. If you didn't do the highest layer, you'd be behind on currency and take longer to craft or upgrade your legendary gear. But with the lower layers being more rewarding, and with you having the capability to run any layers you want as many times as you want, if you get stuck on layer 10, and that's the highest you can do for whatever reason, you actually don't have to stress and push for layer 11. You can just run layer 10 over and over again, and you'll be able to upgrade your legendary gear whenever you have enough currency. Of course, those higher layers will probably be more efficient if you can clear them because you get more currency, but it's not that big of a deal anymore. It's worth noting that the Tormentors of Torghast event, the More Assaults, and the Soul Cinders missions have all had their rewards increased as well to about double what they were previously. So you'll now get 100 Cinders from Tormentors of Torghast or More Assaults, and then 15 to 30 Cinders from the Soul Cinder missions from your mission tables. But honestly, with Torghast being completely opened up, and the rewards being significantly better, if you want to farm Soul Cinders, your best bet would be just focusing on Torghast in my opinion. And then the last little change to Torghast is actually pretty cool. Rescuing souls in Torghast runs will now count towards the Rescue 20 Souls quest you get from your Covenant. Honestly, this is how I expected the quest to work in the first place back before Shadowlands launched. It never made sense to me that rescuing souls in Torghast didn't contribute to your redeemed souls currency in any way, and it's yet another change coming in this patch that makes me think, well, that should have been in at the start. But as with everything coming in this patch, better late than never, I suppose. And then to wrap up this video, flying has finally been enabled for your characters when you die, so getting back to your body shouldn't ever be a problem going forward, even if you happen to die on top of a massive cliff or down a random hole somewhere. This is probably something that, again, should have been enabled right from the start, even before we unlock flying, just to avoid problems relating to graveyard locations that crop up quite a lot in a new expansion. And then the last little change is actually for conduit energy. It looks like the dev team wants to more or less remove the system before it's entirely removed. It's a bit of an odd one, but honestly, it's a great decision in my opinion. Up until now, you were given 1 conduit energy per day to try and change things around how you wanted. That wasn't really a lot to work with, but a recent hotfix increased the regen rate to 10 per day. That means your energy is going to be fully filled up every single day, so you can now spend 10 energy per day and never run out. Again, it kind of removes a lot of the restrictions of the system without really removing the system, but it's a great stopgap until it gets properly removed in patch 9.15. And that's all of the changes for patch 9.15 and the live game this week, so that's it for this video. What do you think of the new/old tier sets that are being data mined? Do you think they will come from Legion Time Walking, or maybe from a revamped Mage Tower event? How do you feel about these sets being used yet again? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.